I remember a few years ago, of course, I had already been an In-N-Out fan, but a few years ago, I saw that In-N-Out around San Francisco refused to like check, was it vaccine status? California at the time said in order to go into a restaurant, you have to show your vaccine card, which
Yeah.
is insane
Yeah.
to say, to think about. And the In-N-Out locations were like, no. And even the head of legal here was like, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
Right?
Right. Yeah.
So tell me what went into that decision.
Well, there were so many pressures and just hoops we were having to jump through. You know, you've got to do this. They have to wear a mask. You have to put this plastic thing up between us and our customers. And it was really terrible, you know. And I look back and I'm like, man, maybe we should have just pushed even harder on some of that stuff and dealt with all the legal backlash. But that was definitely where we held the line. Like we're not policing our customers, you know. I mean, I think of my uncle saying, you know, we're not going to serve them something that we wouldn't eat. We want to give them the best. And it's like, I wouldn't do that to anyone.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't want this and I don't expect them to want it. So, yeah.
And did you have backlash from the state of California?
Well, I saw this story come up and it's been circulating in the news, and I kind of wanted to talk about it because it, you know, if you haven't heard, In-N-Out is relocating to, or I think they're moving back to Tennessee, and they're going to explain this more in the video. But this one hit home because it was like, for those of you who don't know, I grew up in California, in the Bay Area. Family in Southern California, all over, and In-N-Out is very much for any kid who grew up in California. It's like a Chick-fil-A in the South. You know what I mean? It's something that you just you have fond memories of. And anyone who knows me knows I love In-N-Out. I haven't had it in several years just because I moved to Oregon. Oregon didn't have an In-N-Out for a long time. Then moving to Atlanta, there's no In-N-Out here. So hopefully that will change soon now if they're moving to Tennessee. But growing up, I just remember that was the hangout spot. A lot of fun memories there. If you were in the cars, of course, girls, that was the spot. Late night, they stayed open late. You know, everyone brought their lowriders down and kind of hung out there. But needless to say, it is unfortunate that they're moving. I mean, happy for them, but it's like I don't know what it's going to take for California and a lot of other cities like California to kind of wake up. And I don't mean like, well, how do I say this? I don't necessarily mean the people, but I mean like the electives, the elected officials. And quite frankly, we just got to do a better job of vetting them out as citizens. But this is terrible when you make it hard for people to do business and commerce, and when all of us enjoy going to these places and dining and whatever experiences, and you just can't do business because the taxes are so high, and these cities can't balance their budgets to save their life, and they tax businesses to oblivion. But yet they turn around and, you know, they ask for money. It's like, well, I'm not giving you money if you're gonna, bash me over the head. I'll just take my business and go elsewhere. That's just how it works. And this one hit home just because it was a little more sentimental, not just because they have a great product, because they do have a fantastic product, but the memories attached to it for me. Let's see what else.
Over that, honestly, yes, we were shut down, shut down for a brief moment, but it's worth it.
Yeah.
It's worth it. I think there's a lot of people that were charged by that move, so it's good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
we can be closed down for a couple days and feel good about it.
Yeah, fought through it. Okay, so state of California, crazy in some ways, beautiful in a lot of ways, crazy in other ways, policy-wise. I know that y'all have felt that and y'all have talked about opening up shop in Franklin, Tennessee, right? So tell me kind of like what that move, what that expansion means for the country, or not for the country, maybe for the country, but
Also,
specifically for the company.
yeah. Um, so going back a little further, my uncle opened the office in Irvine that we
Mhm.
have. So we're Baldwin Park, and then Irvine opened in the 90s. Um, when my dad came down to run the business, because he had moved us away. We moved to Northern California. It was family over fighting with his brother and running the company. So he came down and saw Irvine and all of that and was just like, this is not us. This is not our roots. This is not my dad. And he wanted to move everyone back to Baldwin Park. So kind of did a hybrid. He moved a lot of people back to Baldwin Park, but Irvine continued on and continued to grow. And then, my dad died a handful of years later. So he never got to bring everyone back here and close Irvine. So Irvine now, we went from having a couple floors to nearly the whole building. So my vision for a long time has been to have, these two offices under one roof. And so that's basically what's going to happen. We're building an office in Franklin. So I'm actually moving out there and a
Wow. How
handful.
do you feel about that? You're like a California girl through and through, right?
Yeah, I mean, I really loved living in Northern California, and I'm so thankful that I grew up there because I think it changed a lot of who I am today.
I feel the same way. As a California native, someone who grew up there, born and raised, um, I feel like it shapes your worldview because you're exposed to so much earlier on. I think there are very few cities that actually, you know, give you that opportunity. I think Atlanta is one of those cities too, just because it's so diverse here. Um, but yeah, just like I said, growing up there really shapes your worldview because it's so diverse and there's so much, so many things you can do, just the different places you can go that you wouldn't normally go. And I remember the first time I went to visit my family in Oklahoma, and I had never been anywhere in that region. So I get there and getting a kid from California, I asked my grandma, I was like, or the question came up, what do we want to have for dinner? And I asked her, I said, well, can we have Mexican food? And to my surprise, my grandparents didn't know what Mexican food was. And I was like, tacos, burritos, all that stuff. They're like, nah. They knew it was Southern cooking, right? Like deep fried corn on the cob. Never had that before. Uh, all of the Southern things you could think of is kind of how they hate. And I just, even as a kid, I remember, wow, do you know what a taco is? It kind of threw me for a loop. And just having that exposure to all those different things, I think growing up in California really did give you perspective and allow you to see and experience lots of parts of the world without actually going there. You know, full circle back to In and Out. If you go to any, well, I don't say, well, yeah, just about any In and Out in the Bay Area in particular, you'll see all types of races, cultures, and it truly is like a little community center. I have friends that work there. They paid well, and it's again, this is like an institution. And so, I mean, I remember during the times where that was where you wanted to work. If you were in high school or just getting out of high school or whatever, you needed a job because they were paying like $17 an hour back in like late 90s, early 2000s. They were always like a great place to work. And yeah, it was just a great, great time, good fond memories. And during the pandemic, I was living in Portland at the time, and I remember how hard Portland came down. I think Portland was one of the last, Oregon was one of the last states to open up just because they were like overly cautious. And we had already been through the pandemic. Through the thick of it. And Oregon didn't even have those type of numbers, and they just kept the state closed, and it really damaged a lot of businesses. Again, working in the commercial real estate industry, I saw how it negatively impacted even the company I was working for. And it was like, why do the Democratic cities struggle with this? And they get a lot of things right, but they just some things they just when it comes to, dare I say it, capitalism, they trip over their own 2 feet. When all of these Democratic leaders participate in capitalism. I don't know, it's beyond me. But to drive one of your anchoring, almost said tenants, one of your anchoring businesses out of the area to a whole other state, and that good for Tennessee. Frankly, I have family that lives there. That's going to pick up that revenue, at the tax based revenue. It's, um, yeah, it's definitely something I think it was a major fail. And it's not like they lower the reduced tax base since that company leaves. No, they keep it elevated and they'll just pass it on to like homes in the area. The tax has to go somewhere. Someone's got to pay it. So yeah.
I think I would be different if I was raised in Southern California.
Hmm.
Um, but there, like you said, there's a lot of great things about California, but raising a family is not easy here.
That is a fact. One of the reasons why I moved.
Doing business is not easy here. Now, the bulk of our stores are still going to be here in California, but it will be wonderful having an office out there, growing out there,
Totally.
and being able to have the family and other people's families out there.
Mhm.
And so in that, it's two-part. We'll have everybody under one roof here in Baldwin Park, and we'll close our fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a big transition.
It
And that's
is.
happening in the next few years, right?
Yeah, we've kind of, given it a longer runway so that it's smoother for everybody so they can plan and all
Mhm.
of that. And we gave them
Yeah.
a lot of notice, because we love them and want to
Mhm.
make it as easy as possible. But
Yeah.
by 2030, we'll close the Irvine office. So
Okay. So at one point you said that within your lifetime, like if you draw a line straight up from Texas, everything to the left, like you
Uh-huh.
want In and Out there, but not maybe to the right
Yeah.
of the line.
Yeah.
And you talked about just like the importance of the kind of like novelty of In and Out,
Yes.
like that you liked when someone comes into town where there's an In and Out, they're like, I got to go there, which is totally true.
Yeah.
That's what people do, by
Yeah.
the way. I'm guessing though, since you're going to be, to the right of that line, that you're probably going to be opening up In and Outs there. So what does the strategy look like? Has it changed?
Well,
Come on,
it's
Georgia.
funny. I think Kid Rock, his name's Bob. I think he's the one that actually drew the new map, and he put the line up from Texas, grabbed Tennessee, went around Tennessee and back up. And I'm like,
Okay.
yeah, that's accurate.
There you go.
So I think for me, it's the same heart. It's just, I guess I would say a man plans his ways and God
Yeah.
directs his steps, So we
Mhm.
had a plan, and then he snuck that in there. And I think, Florida has begged us and we're still saying no. The East Coast states, we're still saying no.
Ugh.
We're able to reach Tennessee from our Texas warehouse. So we're not putting our whole meat facility where we do all of our own beef and send it to our stores, make patties. We're not going to have that there. We'll have a warehouse, but not do our own meat there. So we'll be able to deliver from Texas. So Texas can reach some other states,
Mhm.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Georgia, come on.
Most companies are thinking, how can we expand to as many places as possible, as fast as possible?
I will be writing them to lobby for Georgia. Uh, I believe we deserve an In and Out here. And actually, funny story, I wrote them before and I got a response, not for Georgia, but for Oregon. And, they said, we're headed your way. You know, this is before they actually got in the state. We're headed your way. We're just not there yet. So anyway, that was cool. But go check out this story if you're interested. This is just this is more of a sentimental reaction to this interview that I heard for about In and Out. So don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share. And again, if you've never eaten there, word to the wise, order a double double animal style. Thank me later. All right, take care.